everyone, and welcome to today's interview. Today, I am speaking with Abby Wynne. Hello, Abby.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, darling. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm enjoying the lengthening of the days. I don't like the dark days in Ireland. I think, what is it? Sun doesn't come up till like 8:30 in the morning and it goes down at 4. It's it makes
Same here. Same here in Cornwall, darling. It's a nightmare, but it is. I was up at 7:30 this. Well, I was up before that, but it's at 7 this morning or 7:30. It looked like I was like, "Oh, it's not so dark now." That's better. I was at my desk writing.
I went for a walk yesterday actually, and there was the sun, and I turned to the sun because everything's under clouds at the moment.
Mm.
And I said, "Oh, it's so good to see you. I love you." And I just felt this belt of love from the sun hitting me. And I'm like, "Oh my God, the sun loves me back. This is great."
Super
It was
cute.
really funny.
All right, let's before we go off on a tangent too much, let's tell everybody who you are and what you do. So, yeah, a little bit
It's
about you,
not
please,
really a
Abby.
tangent, because that's the shamanism is the connection to everything. And the sun isn't just this thing in the sky. You can actually talk to it or talk to the trees, talk to your crystals. It's a bit difficult, talking to your desk in the office, to your computer, but I talk to my computer all the time, especially when I'm doing a group session so that the computer doesn't crash on me. So now here I am and here are you, and we're going to talk to 500 people. And so we calibrate the energies, and so it works. So what I do is teach people how to look after their energy,
Hmm.
because I'm a fully trained psychotherapist. I've got a science degree, master's in science, and none of that did it for me until I started working in a magical way with the imagination as a canvas to speak to your soul, to be able to understand what's going on and be an active participant in your healing process, as opposed to just waking up from a horrendous nightmare and going, "Oh my God, the bad things in my psyche are going to get me," and then not be able to armor up and go in there yourself and get them first. Because the dream is the gateway between, let's say, this reality, our mind, our intellect, and the soul, the other world. And so to be able to work with that imagination in a practical way is kind of where I'm going, Antonia, because I've written, as you know, millions of books.
13, I believe.
So I have 3 main books in self-care. I call them self-care books because self-help, I don't like the title. So the self-care book, well, the first one is Energy Healing Basics with Hay House, where I take all of the labels off of what you're doing and bring it down to what you're actually doing, because people get so caught up in what stuff's called.
No, yeah, absolutely no joke. I get that in my work too.
So it's
It's
a
the intention behind
framework.
it that matters, not what you're
Yeah, and the
actually
labels
calling
and
it.
and the processes, and it's all over here. And for me, it's all about embodiment. You bring it into your body, then you have it with you anywhere you go.
Mm-hmm.
So taking the labels off and looking at centering, grounding what your spiritual energy is, and literally how to bring it into your body so that you're here. Because a lot of people who suffer from anxiety is because they're not here, and their spiritual energy is their greatest resource.
So where are they if they're not here?
They're out doing something else or running away or on it. It's difficult to know. Do you know when kids draw and you have the picture of the person and they scribble outside the lines? That's what we look like with our spiritual energy. We're not contained in this body in a nice way. We spill over, we're messy. I could be worried about my mother, and then part of my energy is over with her. I could have had a trauma, let's say in school in another country, and part of my energy is over there, or it's stuck in the past, or there's something coming up in the future that I'm worried about. My energy is there. So each of these pieces of energy that are not with you depletes your energy field.
That's interesting about the distortions as well from what we were discussing
Yeah, but I
before.
mean, that's the thing. And then it's not just as we all know, it's not a pretty, happy, clappy world. So if you have a tendency to spill outside of yourself, and somebody has a tendency to like fill up from the energy of other people, then they can come and take your energy from you as well. So
Mm.
people that want to control you, people that dominate you, people that you feel have authority over you can take your energy from you. So Energy Healing, the book, teaches you how to work with the energy that you have, but how to be well, which is the next book I wrote, teaches you how to take your energy back from those people who take it from you. So the power imbalance in relationships, particularly, let's say, the empath and the narcissist codependency, where, you know, you as the empath, well, me as the empath, checking in, feeling, how is everybody doing? How do I need to be today? I'm a people pleaser to the point where I cut off pieces of myself and literally give away my source energy to keep the peace. So the thing is, and this came up before, it was very interesting because I watched a video with a woman who's talking with survivors of abuse. And it's like, can we do a healing session so that people can find their voice? And I said to her, people have their voice already. They know exactly what they want to say, but they don't have the power behind it. So they don't feel able to say it. It's not about finding the words. It's about finding enough power to be able to feel able to say the words.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how to be well, is where to get your power. And then there's exercises as to, okay, you just had a conversation with this person. What would you have liked to have said? And it's, people get so disassociated from their power. They write down all the things and they learn them off by heart. So the next time it happens, if they feel more powerful, they can say a phrase that they've already learned because it's not embodied yet.
That's interesting. I've actually said that in my book. I was giving a similar tip as well. It was about, work through, if you have an uncomfortable encounter, actually sit there and think what would have been the best case scenario? How could I have handled it differently? And what will I want to say next time? So it is exactly the same.
Exactly. So you're prepared the next time. And then
Yeah.
if you do the energy exercises to bring the energy back in, and then you have your line ready, you're less likely to not say it. Do you know what I mean? So
Because you're
that's how to
prepared,
do
aren't
well.
you? You've learned it. Yeah.
Yeah. So then the third book that I've written is called Heal Your Inner Wound. And your inner wounding could be anything. Now, this was one chapter in the middle of How to Be Well, and I thought this isn't doing it any justice. So I took out the middle chapter and made it into 7 chapters. And I look at your inner child. I look at your inner teen. Now, I know I'm one of the first people that ever acknowledged that we have an inner teenager. There are quite a few people are doing it now, but your inner teenager is the rebellious one who's angry at you, who doesn't want to play, who wants to go and hide. And she or he is the most creative aspect of them all, be your best friend. But they're so busy trying to belong, and they're so angry at whatever they're angry at that they don't want to take part. So working with your inner teenager is incredibly powerful. And then I work with your inner teenage, your inner 20-year-old, where you would get your, grief and loss and realizing you're an adult and having to step up and take responsibility. And then looking at divine feminine and masculine and the wounding there. And then I look at light and dark, because I believe, yes, we all are familiar with dark, but people call it shadow. I call it dark, because if it's in the shadow, you can't see it. And I believe you could actually have something in your shadow that's not necessarily dark. Like you might not realize that you could be a concert violinist because you've never picked up a violin in your life, and that's in the shadow of you. So why does being in the shadows always have to be a bad thing?
And it's funny, isn't it, with these things? I remember I had a similar situation where I went to chef school, and the first time I filleted a fish in my entire life, I was really good at it naturally. And then I became top of the class. Everyone was trying to get me to fillet fish. The first time I did it, I was just brilliant at it, and I've just been brilliant at it ever since. And the same with throwing axes. I'm really good at throwing axes. I mean, I was a Viking or something in a past
Yeah,
life.
and I'm really good at archery. And where did
Are
I
you?
come across archery? And then I picked up the bow and arrow for the first time, and I'm like, oh my God, I know how to do this.
They asked me to join the axe throwing league the first time I did it.
So this is what I'm getting at. There's darkness there. There's stuff that you have to look at. And I think the way that the paradigm is, and this is what we're shifting into now, which is really interesting, is that people are prepared around darkness. You roll up your sleeves and you say, right, there's darkness there. Oops, let's go into it. But the light is just as much work. The beauty that we are, to be able to embrace the beautiful parts and to embody those is difficult work. This is one of the things I admire about you. You have no problem saying, I'm really good at this. But so many people can't do that. So many people can't step, oh yeah, I'm really good at this and I can do this and I can do that, because we're living in a place where everybody's saying what they can't do. Yeah. So to be able to own those things, and again, it's all about embodiment, not wearing it, but being it. being who you are completely, so that you don't need to learn a line off by heart because you feel immediately that somebody is being inappropriate or they're being rude or they're crossing a boundary, and you can go, whoa, stop. What did you just say there? I need to hear it again just to make sure I got it right. And say, well, did you hear what you said to me? I don't really think that's appropriate, and to reflect it back, because you're more likely to do that when your power is here.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, those 3 books, if someone says they want to, how to live in the world, it's an instruction manual for living. Those are the 3 books I would say. And I say, okay, but I'm a prolific writer and I have to keep writing. So what did I do next?
Write more.
I wrote a trilogy. I've just finished writing the 3rd one, where I talk about the imagination and the power of the imagination. And I have a character who's based on me, loosely based on me, who back in the day where I was doing my training, I was doing psychotherapy training, Reiki training, shamanic training, all at the same time. It's all very mucky. So people do this, separate it out in your head. And then I'm sitting with a client and their psychotherapy, but I want to put my hands on them with the Reiki. So I thought it's a really interesting point of time to become another character who's experiencing a similar thing. So I've created Marissa, who lives in Dublin and is studying all these things. And then she meets darkness and has a spiritual crisis of what she does. And so it's very much from her point of view, in her head, all the relationships, the boyfriends, the friends, working at a 9 to 5, going and doing magical things. How do you consolidate it in real life? And I suppose, they've classified it as contemporary women's fiction. It's modern literature, but it's actually magical realism, which is how I live every day. Which is me talking to the sun in the morning and going, I love you, and then feeling the love coming back in. And we are allowed to live like this. So I think by having the instruction manuals, how to do your own inner work, and then having the novels, which opens it out to be fun and free and call on the angel and do all the work on yourself and sit down in your mind's eye and meet your inner child and have a chat with them, that it really allows us to be the creative, magical beings that we are. And it would be a very different world when we get rid of all the distortions, and then people know how to communicate with their other aspects of themselves, can embody all of their power and go and be what they want to be, what their heart is leading them to.
Wouldn't it? Working on it.
We'll get there.
Yeah, I'm pulling in things thick and fast for all of this stuff. So yeah, distortions are really interesting.
That's a bit about me.
What about the other books? That's only the first 6. You have another 7, I believe.
Oh, okay. Well, I've got diaries as well. I do a lot of work with affirmations. The way I see affirmations isn't just something that you say, because there's no power in that.
They seem a bit empty. I always thought that with Louise Hayes and was it not the Power of Now? Is it the Power of Now?
She did How to Heal Your Body.
Yeah, Power of Now is Eckhart Tolle, I think. Sorry, yeah, How to Heal Your Body. And I just found them a bit empty. And I also found it a bit American. And I'm not sure how good English people are at standing in front of a mirror and saying, I love myself. I just find it
I have a whole piece about that in my book.
It's a bit weird. It's not very British.
I have, so you look in the mirror and you go, yeah, there's me. That's me.
I don't know. It's just very American. It feels very American.
Well, I love that you said that, because they are empty, but I'm finding, going back to what I was saying about doing the shamanism, the psychotherapy and the Reiki all together, I created my own unique way of working. And I'd meet people where they were and I'd work them through whatever they were releasing or whatever they were working in. You need to embody the work. You can't just, because I say to them, what you're going to do now, we've just spent an hour together and you've done the most amazing transformational work. And then in an hour's time, you'll be sitting there with your cup of tea going, that never happened. And then you'll start to go back to the old patterns and you'll leak your power out again. And you're not going to hold on to the new configuration that we just did together in session.
what do you think about this? Because I've had situations where people have forgotten things straight away afterwards. Like I've got one of my energies that I teach in my level 1 course, and I know you've experienced this as well, is changing the taste of wine using energy. Now, I've done this to people and taught people how to do it and asked them about it later, and it's completely not in their memory. They don't remember it whatsoever. And I'm saying, we definitely did this, and you did this and this, and they're like, nope, never did it.
That's
What's that
why
about?
I did the affirmations, because I see the affirmations as a tone, like music, right? Where I'm not listening to me at all, I'm listening to them. And I hear the note before we do the work. And then I hear the note after. So they forget the new note because they've only heard it once or twice with me. And what they do, Antonia, is they reflect the new note back to me and decide it was mine and it was never theirs in the first place. So they're not owning that frequency because they're more familiar with the lower one. So by holding them at the frequency always, so if I'm meeting someone for an hour and I'm looking at the time, I say, we have 15 minutes left. We're going to not do any more work today. We're going to spend the rest of the time working on how we can keep you at this frequency. So you remember what you've done so that you hold it for as long as you can.
Okay, interesting.
And so instead of anything being empty, what we do is we start with the energy. So I get the energy that they are at right now. And then I say, where are the words to match this? So it's like we pull in the words and fill them with that energy, and that creates the affirmation. And
So
then
there are
I get,
individual affirmations for different
yes, it's like a
people.
prescription. It's prescription medication. For me, it's the medicine of the affirmation because it's weighted and it's strong and it's powerful. And what's really interesting is that I always end up with 3 affirmations, one slightly below their frequency that they are, one that is the frequency, one that's above. So they can catch themselves. It's like you just said, you can't look at yourself in the mirror and say, I love you if you don't feel it. So they catch themselves where they are when they drop.
Just feels weird looking at yourself and talking to yourself in the mirror, full stop,
It's
you
too
know.
American for us.
It just is. I don't mind saying it, and I do definitely love myself. I just feel like
Wait,
a
I'm
Burke
half
in the mirror
American,
doing it.
Antonia, and I still couldn't even relate to it. I just look, I get to say, okay, there I am. How's it going? At least I can look at myself now. It's like, no,
Oh, I've
no,
never had a problem with
I
looking
can
at
say
myself. I just find it weird.
it's taken me 52 years to be able to say that I love being me. And I think saying I love being me is easier to say than I love myself, because I love myself just sounds like you're egotistical or
Do you know
something.
what? No, I remember this from school, and this is maybe part of the reason I'm as I am. Because I remember people at school saying, you love yourself," and I went, "Don't you love yourself? God, are you okay?" And I just turned the bullying around and them going, "Are you okay if you don't love yourself? I mean, do you want me to give you a hug?" And I would just spin it around on them. Yes, I do love myself. We should love ourselves. If you don't love yourself, that's not a good place to be, my darling. And they were trying to bully me, and I was counseling
Oh,
them
that is
hilariously when I was about 7.
brilliant. Because now what I do is I work with a lot of women who have trouble with their bodies. You just froze there for a minute. Did you hear what I was saying? Yeah.
Yeah, you say you work with something. No, you said now what you do is work with, and then I lost you.
So I'm working with women who have trouble with their bodies, right? And
Yeah.
so I say to them, your body is not you. It's a part of you. And your body just wants to love you, but you're not loving your body back.
Right.
So if you don't see your body as you could love your body, because you're not loving yourself in that way. You're loving the body as a part of you. But your inner child, they're so cute. You can give your inner child a hug, but you can't give your physical body a hug. But if you see it as another aspect of you, then it's much easier to do that. So that's actually just made a video about that just now. So where was I going with this? With the imagination and creativity, there's so much we can do. Oh yeah, the affirmations. So
Affirmations,
at the end
yeah.
of the session, so I've got the affirmation that matches where they are. This is the really interesting thing for me, because it's like a pH test or a litmus test. I say the affirmation and then I get them to say it with me. They can always do that, but then I get them to say it on their own. And 9 times out of 10, they either forget the words straight away, or it comes out like a question.
Right, with the upping of the voice at the end.
So I'll give you an example of one. Just something even as simple as I am safe. Let's say you have somebody who's coming to you because they've got panic attacks and they don't feel safe.
Sure.
So I am safe. And if you say it and you mean it 100% in your head, I am safe, sounds like a question, or it comes out really weak. I'm safe. I'm safe.
Mm.
So I say, okay, so did the work we do actually stick with you, even in the 45 minutes? So clearing energetically what's blocking them from that to get them to say, I am safe. I am safe. I am safe. And then you can just drop the safe and go, I am. But it's the tone and the frequency and the energy of that they embody. And then I say, okay, say that every day, 500 times a day. But you see, obviously it's up to them as to whether they want to do it or not, if they do it at all. But it's the same, it's like people say, oh yeah, I meditate every day. So I say, okay, so what does that mean? And they're like, oh, what do you mean? What does it mean? I meditate. Yeah, I said, okay, it's different for everybody. Is it useful? Because meditation for me is no use, because I just sit there and I make plans and my brain is too busy to write things down. But when I sit with the affirmations and I am here and I am the light and I can and I will, and it's not just about saying it in your head as well. When you get it in your head and you get it strong, you bring it into your heart and you say it from the heart. So it's like you take that power, that energy, and you vibrate it through your whole body. And then you say it in your stomach as well. So your stomach as the seat of your power. I am safe in your stomach sounds incredibly different from I'm safe in my head. Because we talk ourselves out of a lot of stuff, but we feel how we feel. And when we activate our center of power and our center of power vibrates with the energy of I am safe, it's a lot harder to talk yourself out of that. So.
And it can be felt by other people around, I'm sure, because there's a whole thing. I know I read a study years ago, which was about who people would mug in the street. They got a load of
Oh,
prisoners.
yes.
It's fascinating. Got a load of prisoners, and they asked them to watch videos of people walking down the street. And they said, if you were going to mug somebody, who would you mug? And they all invariably went for the same people. And what was it that these people were exhibiting? And actually, it's exactly the same as what lions and other animals would do in the wild. What they do is they go for the weakest one. So they go for one that's old or one that's very young. And even with the gazelles running across, what happens is the lions end up. I've been on safari. They cross their paths exactly, but they have their eye on one particular one, and then they go for that one. That's the same thing. And what it is in humans is the ones who look nervous, the ones who aren't feeling safe, the ones who are shuffling down the street or on their
But you know
mobile
what else,
phones.
though? There's a hidden layer
Energy.
of that,
Mm.
which is what we said earlier about having your spiritual energy in your body and being empowered.
Mm.
They can tell who isn't present in their body.
Yeah.
Who has already leaked out. If you walk into the room and people feel you walking into the room, they're going to stay away from you because they feel your power walking.
And you're just too much hard work. Let's go for somebody else. Like they want an easy one. I mean, there's just, why bother doing extra work? You want someone who was just, be an easy target, really.
But when you look at the way we're conditioned to live, to be apologetic for our very existence, then your power leaks out of you right before you even begin.
Yeah, that sucks.
So that's how you can be controlled, whereas if you come in powerful and you're holding your power, not only in your mind, but through your heart and the seat of power in your gut, then that's brings it in. And I see it like the cello, the shape of the cello and how it gets wider down the bottom.
Yeah.
If that's how you hold your power, where most of it is down there, then you still have access to the mind and the intellect, and it connects all through itself, through the strings. And then as you play the song of you, it's strong.
Yeah. I just remembered a story about me getting mugged. It's quite funny, so I'll tell you. I ended up having a situation. I'd flipped it around as well to make it in my favor, which is just insane. I had a situation where a boyfriend broke up with me because someone had said something to him which was untrue, and I was livid about it.
Oh,
I was livid about it. So I was walking down the street, and I was obviously just like erratic and going through it and thinking about it and just all over the place mentally and just distraught. And some guy comes up to me and asked me to give him my wallet. To which I turned around and went, "Do you know the effing day I've had?" And I was like, "My boyfriend has just broken up because someone said this and da 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 da." And I went off on one, and the guy went, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm not going to make your day any worse by mugging you." And the mugger gave me a hug.
Muggers need hugs too. Oh my God.
It was hilarious. And he was like, I'm so sorry. He literally, and it turned it around. But if you give people a totally different response and that they're not expecting, then actually they don't know what to do because they've practiced certain scenarios. I know that Darren Brown had a similar situation where he said he got mugged and he said, "My garden wall is 3 foot tall." And obviously, this wasn't in the remit of what you would expect someone to reply with when you're mugging. And he just went, "My garden wall is 3 foot tall. My garden wall is 3 foot tall." And the mugger just went, I didn't know what to do with it, and ran away from him. It's quite interesting. Like if you're changing the script to something completely like balmy, often people don't know how to react because it's not being rehearsed. The same as how you started with this.
Rehearsed.
Yeah, because they would have rehearsed for a mugging. You probably would have rehearsed it, or you may have rehearsed it.
Do you
So if
know that
it's
there's a television program that I saw where the person has a problem and he has a desired outcome, and he goes to this guy who then recreates the entire building, who might be in the building when he's going to have the situation and who he's going to meet, and go through rehearsal of so many different scenarios so that he's prepared for it. I just thought, you can't do that. This is really amazing because it's so outside of his control. It's like the guy recreated a restaurant and walked him into the restaurant. Which seat are you going to sit at when you tell your friend this thing that you have to tell her? You know, oh, we're going to sit at this one. And what happens if there's somebody sitting at that seat and you can't sit there? You know, it's like, so they organize this thing like, oh, my grandmother's sick and this is her table and I really need to sit at her table. And they make people move because he had to sit at that table because that's where he was sitting when he rehearsed it. And I'm like, that is so disempowering to have everything outside of you when you need it inside of you. So you can turn around and say to the bullies in the schoolyard, "Oh, you don't love yourself. That's terrible. Here, let me give you a hug." And then you get a hug from a mugger several years later, you know?
I think I'm just a hugger or something. I don't know. It's bizarre. It's hilarious. But yeah, it's difficult to rattle me. I'm just like, what? Why don't you love yourself? That's such a strange concept. It was hilarious.
Do you know what I think, though? I think, though, that we're all different and that
yeah.
the more powerful we are, as in the more spiritual energy we have, you know, a capacity for, the more ourselves we become.
Yeah.
And so we stand out more. We're brighter in our colors. It's like all the birds, and they open up their fan of their feathers, and everybody's different.
Oh.
But we're not afraid to show our different colors when we're powerful, because we are not comparing ourselves to each other. We're just saying, look, and I'm here as well. I am here.
Which is what I like about the dream team. You know, that's one of the things I think is really wonderful about you, me, Anya, and Honey, is just we're all sort of in our power and proud, and then playing like, oh, what have you got? What have you got? Like, how do we combine this and make this all work
Play
together?
together and saying, oh, I like that over there. Could we learn how to do that too? But
Yeah.
as our power leaks from us, it's like we become less colorful, less vibrant.
We have less
You
to
know,
give. You know, when you're bountiful in power or strength or something, then you don't mind giving it away because you know
exactly.
it's about building a longer table rather than a higher wall when you
Oh,
have
my
lots of
friend was so
things.
cross with me because in the third book of my trilogy that I just finished, I teach everybody who's reading the book how to do soul retrieval.
Oh, really? Why was she
So
annoyed about it?
I like people to pay me for that.
I teach it in level 3, so it's all, you know, it's part of what I do
But
as
I just
well.
thought, why not just give it all away? Because
Yeah.
it's your gift, right? So I'm teaching people as they're following. And at the third book, you're so connected to the characters. You're in the story already. You don't even realize that you start to do soul retrieval for yourself as the characters are doing it for themselves.
Mm.
You know, which is how I'm sneaking the healing in. But what I was getting to was that as colorful and vibrant as we are when we're more powerful, we're also like whitewashed and translucent when we're not.
Mm.
And so, there's a lot of talk at the moment about these NPCs. What I don't even remember what it stands for. It's like the
Non-player character.
non-playing characters. I think they just don't have their soul energy in them, and they're just kind of in the background, and they're kind of opaque, translucent, kind of gray and not present because of that. That's my theory.
And do you think that's, the more traumas you have, the more distortions you've got, the more you've leaked out, and the less sort of in control you are of your own mind, your own actions, and your own everything else, own life.
And then you're in that conditioning where they don't even tell you that it's okay to be you, that what you're different to everyone else, and that's your strength,
And you
that
follow
you are allowed
blindly,
to
you follow
create.
everything blindly, you just do as you're bloody told all the
And what
time.
would you like to create? And so that's what I've been working on in the last couple of weeks is, okay, well, we know where we are, we know where we've been. Do we want to know more about the past? Maybe, but where are we going and what are we creating and how do we get there? So I was talking to my friend about this yesterday, and I think the fear that people have in the collective at the moment is they can't really see where we're going, where we'd like to go. We can only see an agenda that someone else has set that's very dark,
Yeah.
and there's no alternative. So I'm saying, okay, well, how about all of us who have our power, who have our colors, to start creating and building a field over there that's going to be beautiful. And just as we were saying about the energy and the strength and the power of the vibration, that we start putting more energy and strength and power into something that doesn't exist yet. It starts to take form,
Starts to
and then
exist.
people start to see it, and those people who don't have as much power, say, as some of the ones who create it, can go, oh, there is actually something over here that's alternative, that's different, that could be nice, that could be peaceful and empowering, and yes, I'm going to choose that. And it's like we can lead them out from one paradigm into another,
Yeah, it's
but we
time.
have to create it first. So that's what I'm working on. I'm working on creating new paradigms.
Wow, that sounds very
Well, I know you
interesting.
do that too. I know
I
you do.
create a lot of new shit. A lot of
As
new
dream
stuff.
team, probably, when we go up to God on Judgment Day, what he's going to say, what you guys have been responsible for, I think it'll be a bit overwhelming. So it'll be great in a good way.
Yeah, we do a lot of wild stuff. And, as Honey's saying, we're like, it looks like not everybody has actually taken their missions that they're supposed to. So we've all ended up with extra missions and extra work that needs doing.
But
Um,
but we would. You roll up your sleeves and you just get down and you do it.
yeah, I do a lot of that.
But if you do the reverse thinking, okay, so you're not trying to fit into an affirmation that somebody else wrote that doesn't resonate with you.
Right.
You start with where you are, you get the frequency of that, and then you decide where you want to be. And then you get the steps towards it. So you step it up and step it up and step it up and step it up until one day you wake up and you look in the mirror and you can say whatever it is you wanted to say yesterday or 3 weeks ago and you weren't able to say.
Mm. And all these things get broken down. If you are in an abusive relationship and things like that, it makes it harder and harder to be able to actually have your voice or have the power behind your voice, as you said. So, there is time to look at things and notice when you've been disempowered and reframe it, and then start to build your own personal power.
Yeah, it's
Coming
it's
up
it's
with.
it's 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 like that. I mean, it's not that you need to discover what to say. It's that you need the power to be able to say what you need to say.
Yeah,
And it's
agreed.
all about, for me, it's very much about power. You have a car sitting in the front of your house with no fuel in it. You can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
But if you fill it up, you can go anywhere you want. You could get a ferry and go to Africa, in your
Ferry
car
to
if you
Africa.
choose to. You could get in the car and go and just go anywhere you want, but you can't go anywhere if there's no fuel in the car.
Yeah, that's what we need.
So the
Yeah.
potential is
Yeah.
there, and we need the power. It's willpower, the power of our will. I mean, willpower is
Mm.
sold to you as something that you need to give up something. You need to use your willpower to give up smoking, to give up sweets, to give up this, I think you need to use the power of your will to move yourself forward into the new paradigm where you get what you want and you're not afraid to be who you are. You're unapologetic for your existence.
That's nice thing to end on, I think. Have you got any? Okay, so how do people find you, please, Abby?
On my website, abby-wynne.com, I have loads of things happening all the time. I have a healing circle, which is always on. Every month at the end of the month, I do a group healing session, clearing session, where we clear the energy. And then bring in transmissions, light codes, and uplifting. And then there's a group that support each other, and they can get to know each other, make friends. And I run live programs, and there's free stuff on the website. There's a free, actually, if anybody has anxiety and resonates with what I've said about feeling low in their power, I have a program called the Anxiety Playbook on my website, which is totally free. And it's got all of these little exercises that you can try that meets you where you are and brings you up and brings you up and brings you up and brings you up. And yeah, so come along and check it out.
And get on your mailing list, I think would be the best way to hear updates from you. And what about your socials? How do people find you on those?
Ooh, I'm everywhere. Instagram, Abby Energy Healing, and Facebook, Abby's Energy Healing page. I'm on Telegram as Abby Wynne Author. So those are the main places. I'm also on Twitter as well.
Do you have a YouTube?
I do. I keep forgetting.
I
Abby
know you
Wynne
do.
Author or Abby Energy Healing. But if you go to my main website, all the links for everything else is there. So
All the links are there. And any final words of wisdoms or anything you would like to close with, Abby?
I think if anyone who's watching this asks themselves right now, okay, forget about the car, but just the petrol tank, and the empty and the half full and the full. And just get the image in your mind right now of that and ask yourself, okay, how much of my power is here with me right now? And let the image speak to you. Don't tell it what the answer you think it is. And allow that to come through. And then take the image, right? Because you've got it now, because you've listened to me, and you bring it down into your heart and ask again, is this true? Show me what's true. And the needle will shift. And then final stage, bring it down to your gut and go, okay, that's where I really am. And then you can just take a moment or two in silence and say, okay, how do I get my power back? And then ask for it to start coming back. And you know what might happen is you might see a flash of a person's face in your mind, and then that's where it is to say, okay, so you don't go to the person in real life and say, give me back my power. You just visualize them in your mind and say, okay, I'm taking my power back from you now, and just feel it coming back from them in a gentle way. And then see how long you can hold on to it for.
And then do it all again.
And do it all again, many, many times, over and over, until you're used to holding it. And then it just stays, and then it becomes embodied in you. And you just wake up naturally feeling much more buoyant and much more powerful. So it's training. It's like building up muscles.
Nice. Wonderful. Well, thank you very much, Abby. And Abby is one of our lovely dream team. And I'm working with Abby all the time. We're constantly messaging all about magical things and coming up with weird and wonderful ideas about how to save the planet and the universe at large. It's pretty wild what we get up to.
Really pleased you asked me on. Thanks, Antonia. This was really fun.
Thank you so much. All right. Thank you for watching, everybody,
Bye.
and see you.